Hello, everybody. Everybody has some sort of way of expressing themselves, correct? Whether it be with clothes you wear, with the music you listen to, everybody expresses themselves one way or another. And sometimes, if you're lucky, you can turn that expression into a career. Let's take musicians, for example. Musicians, they make music and they put that music out, and if people stream it, they make a profit. If, let's say, sculptors, they make their sculptures and they sell it for people to buy. That's how people make their careers. So why are some careers more controversial than others? Well, let's talk about drag. In the beginning of 2023, in spring 2023, conservatives began the movement to strip drag queens of their rights. According to an NPR article, any business that hosts drag performances would be lumped into the same categories as sex shops or anything explicit like that. And that's not really fair, is it? Because drag is just an expression of themselves. In this speech, I will talk about what drag is and why it's not really that controversial. I'll be doing this by giving you some quick history on it, telling you about some trailblazers and some current drag queens, and just try to debunk some of the controversies around drag. So let's begin. What is drag? Drag can actually be dated back to early Greek times, where they would put on plays, and at the time women were not allowed to participate in said plays, so they would have men dress up and imitate women. They'd put on dresses, and men would play the roles of women. So that's where drag originated, and it's gotten a lot more complex, but still it's still the kind of the same thing. So it's still kind of the same thing, but it's more complex, like I said. There are drag kings, which is the male impersonation, and drag isn't really just a single bubble. Everybody can do drag. Putting on clothes in the morning, that counts as drag. Putting on nail polish, that counts as drag. Tattoos, piercings, that can all be considered drag. RuPaul, one of the most famous drag queens at the moment, has a saying where she says, "We're all born naked and the rest is drag." She means to say that everybody can be plain, but when you decide to put on those clothes, when you decide to put on that nail polish, you decide to enhance yourself, and that's what drag is. The Dallas Voice actually said, "If rebellion is heart, conformity is drag's betrayal. Setting standards defeats drag and its purpose." So yes, drag is not trying to be defined as one thing. Everybody can do or be or participate in the art form of drag. So now that you know what drag is, what's with the controversy around it? Well, simple. Conservatives believe that drag is trying to influence or harm children. The Oracle states that a majority of child predators are actually heterosexual. So that doesn't add up. Conservatives believe that drag queens' sole purpose in life is to harm, pervert on children, and that's simply not the case. Only 20% of people in the U.S. in the U.S. sex offenders registry are part of the LGBT community. So that's 80% of people in the sex offenders list are heterosexual, and there's kind of a double standard because you don't see people saying, "Oh, let's ban football, let's ban anything straight." So that's kind of the point people are trying to get across, that drag queens, there is no actual proof that drag queens harm or do anything to children. If anything, there are other things that harm children more than drag queens. Let me just get my... Here is a list of the amount of gun deaths among the U.S. kids, and it's stating that it has been increased from 2019 to 2021 about 50%. So the gun epidemic is just going up. But do you know how many kids were murdered from drag queens? That's right, 0. In that time frame, 0 children have been murdered from drag queens, and yet there is still this rebellion against them. But yeah, where we see actual harm to children, there is not really anything being done. Yes. And now let's talk about some trailblazers in the drag community. Crystal LaBeija was a drag queen in the early 70s and 80s. She was a Black queen, and she would participate in ballroom. Ballroom culture is this queer community that does talent shows, beauty contests. It's basically Drag Race like it is today. And in her time, the community was still very racist. So she was actually an activist in that community. She, and I quote, NBC News states that LaBeija stormed off stage to protest the competition, which favored white beauty standards. So yes, LaBeija was not having any of the racism in that community, and she fought for her rights. She fought for equality, and so now that's what drag is. Drag is filled with many Black, Hispanic, Asian people, and we have her to thank for that. Drag queens are constantly being first in everything. Raja Gemini was the first drag queen to be a judge on America's Next Top Model. Jinx Monsoon was the first drag queen to perform the role of matron Mama Morton in Chicago. In all, I just hope this speech taught you that drag is not a crime, and just enlightened you of what drag is.